You know, sometimes things are just better with editing. Honestly, take this for example. Unedited, all you see is this green screen. Sure, what I discuss might be interesting, but maybe we can improve upon it. Maybe we can, I don't know, remove some of the flaws, the mistakes that pop up, cut out some of the parts that maybe aren't as important and favor things that are better in the long run. Editing could really improve things. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing. Today, we're talking about editing humanity, the CRISPR revolution, and the new era of genome editing. If you're interested in what I have to say about this, stay tuned. I'm going to go and edit this video, and I'm going to come back with something better than what we started with. That's coming right up here on Drew's Book Reviews. Alright, let's talk about editing humanity and the CRISPR revolution. But before we get into that, make sure that you hit that like button, comment, and subscribe. And of course, you could follow me on my Bookstagram and join me on the Discord, which will be linked below as well. So definitely be sure to check that out. We could, of course, have a further discussion regarding editing humanity and, well, anything else, science fiction, fantasy, non-fiction, whatever you have in mind, as this channel is all about science fiction, fantasy, and some non-fiction. So let's talk about editing humanity. So this book is all about CRISPR, the revolution behind CRISPR, and what it is doing for scientific and medical research. And of course, CRISPR technology is relatively new, or rather the discovery of it is relatively new in terms of the scientific field. First discovered, I believe, back in around 2012, 2013, sometime in that range. Don't recall the exact date, but anyway, it's not that old. We're really just in the first decade of the CRISPR revolution at this point, and there's so much yet to learn about this technology. This book details the history and development of CRISPR and its possibilities to not only genetically engineer people, which in and of itself poses a moral and ethical dilemma, but also the potential benefit of, correcting genetic errors within our own gene code that leads to genetically derived diseases and everything that goes into that. So both the risks and the reward, but also the history of CRISPR and where it came from, how it was discovered, who were the major players involved in CRISPR, how has it been developed thus far, and where is this potentially leading to in the scientific community. This is really an eye-opening book about the history of CRISPR technology and the revolution in genome editing that we are now facing as a society, as a culture, and everything that this technology poses for, both in terms of reward and benefit and risks associated with that. There are a lot of players involved in the CRISPR revolution. Jennifer Doudna, of course, is one of the leading researchers in this. Doudna is essentially credited with the discovery of CRISPR. Now, it's not Doudna's alone. Many people are involved in this, and I certainly learned a lot about many of the players that were involved in developing the CRISPR technology and the development of it and how it's going so far with the research. Some of the things that I absolutely love about this book is really getting into the nitty-gritty of just how competitive science really is. Scientific research can be quite competitive. First to the goal, first to publish that paper, first to be recognized for something, as labs and researchers around the world are often working on the same scientific problems and questions. And so it kind of got a glimpse into the competitive nature of scientific discovery and research, but also the importance of making sure that your research has been properly vetted and that it has been peer-reviewed in order to make sure that the research you're doing is not only being done in an ethical way, but also in the proper way, and that the data received and the information learned is valid. It kind of really helps to highlight the importance of peer review when it comes to looking at these factors, especially when it comes to editing our gene code. So this, of course, goes beyond editing humanity, as the title of the book is Editing Humanity, but it goes so far beyond that, as it talks a little bit about the potential benefit to agriculture, which is where we've really seen CRISPR technology take off. And it's agriculture, which is where we've seen the most benefit. In fact, most of the food you eat today likely has been edited by CRISPR in terms of the food we eat and the genes involved in the growth of those crops and the distribution, everything behind that. So that may not come as a surprise to some, but maybe it will come as a surprise to others. It's not a surprise to me, but I've already kind of gotten a bit familiar with CRISPR technology. This is not the first CRISPR book that I've read. But ultimately, that in itself does not come as a surprise for me. I really liked how this book touched on some of the rogue scientists, I guess, is how they're generally perceived. Jiankun, or Jianku, I believe was the name, a Chinese scientist who is responsible for the birth of twin girls in China who are genetically engineered twins. Now, he acclaimed success in this when he had his news conference at a genetic CRISPR conference in Hong Kong. The scientist, Ji, from China, he promoted this as a revolution in genetic engineering technology and a good thing, but this was quickly condemned by the global scientific community because his research and what he was doing was so secretive and behind closed doors, essentially. So he didn't want the world to know what he was doing until he'd successfully done it, which led to a lot of condemnations, question about the moral and ethical implications of what he had done, the long-term consequences of genetically engineering these twins. Now, his argument was that he had genetically engineered them to be biologically immune to AIDS, was his goal and his objective in engineering these twins, because they were born to a family in an area of China that has shown to be quite susceptible to AIDS. And so he engineered them to be genetically immune to this. Now, where the condemnation came in is that he didn't do proper study and research to ensure that there would be no long-term consequences. So that kind of leads to the whole rogue scientist situation, and many of the ethical questions revolving around CRISPR. And I think the use of that particular story within this book helps to highlight in an effective way the potentials of this technology, as well as the ethical and moral questions which we must face as a society and a culture regarding this. Because if you can edit humans one way, who's to say you can't edit them another? Biological, genetically engineered viruses, superhuman soldiers that don't have the ability to feel fear or pain and just charge into battle. Things like that all lead to those moral questions that we must face up to as a society if we're to continue with the genetic engineering of society. Now, for me personally, I think that this technology has a lot of really good potential, but I also understand that there's a lot of risk involved in the technology as well. As for you, that's for you to decide whether you think it's a good thing or not. You know, I tend to steer away from generalizations and labeling everything as all bad or all good, and try to focus out, you know, what good can come of this, what are the potential risks, and how do we move forward in a moral, ethical, and effective way to ensure the greatest benefit to the greatest number of people. And I think those are the questions that are posed but not answered by this book. And I really enjoyed this read. I really enjoyed getting into the history of CRISPR technology, and I enjoyed learning more about this technology. It's just amazing to me that something that is discovered to be an inherent part of bacterial immune system has turned into a technology that is so amazingly effective and can be so well done and offer so much benefit that is beyond our scope of imagination as to what this technology will enable us down the road in the long term. So those are my thoughts on Editing Humanity by Ken Davies, author of Cracking the Genome. That's a book that I might have to get as well. I really enjoyed this book. I'm enjoying learning more about CRISPR technology. I know I've got another one coming up later this year called CRISPR People that I'll be reading. It'll be interesting to hear that book's take on this technology as well. I'm certainly enjoying this, and I hope that you're enjoying it too. And if you like hearing about these nonfiction reads and this, make sure that you subscribe to get more videos as I post them on nonfiction topics. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave me a comment down below. What are your thoughts on CRISPR technology? Is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What do you think about CRISPR technology? Let me know in the comments down below. I look forward to hearing from you. Or join me on the Discord and we can have a great discussion over there. That'll be linked below as well. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, keep on reading. Bye!